Hello, hello. Oh, shoot. I need to turn this light on. There we go. That's a little bit better. Howdy. It's week 14 of the Sin Tzu novelization, which means it is the last week. For those of you who have been with us before, you know the drill. For those of you who are just joining in on the finale, essentially we go through one chapter a week, and as I'm reading, I take notes for our canonicity and timeline document, as well as like character appearances, fun stuff like that, that we eventually are going to use for the Watchtower database website. Exactly, because it's Thursday. That's actually why they put me on Thursday, because of that. But yeah, so we're gonna go through. We're gonna make notes over the course of this book. It's basically kind of been deemed non-canon already, but it's been a fun read. It's been a great time. I've been enjoying having you all share it with me. I don't read very often anymore, ever since getting out of school, and so this has been a great way to start going through the backlog of books that I own. Maybe one day we'll get through all of my DCAU books, and I'll just start reading, I don't know, whatever to you guys. Chuck Palahniuk books, Stephen King books. That's, who knows. But yeah, so we're gonna go through this end chapter, and then afterwards, I've got a stack of DCAU books right up here on my scanner that are gonna be the options for next time. So I'll reveal those to you guys over here, and then if you've got Twitter, I'll set up a poll on the Watchtower database Twitter to decide which one we go through next. Is Fight Club canon? I would think so. I don't think there's anything to dispute it being canon, and that the DCAU producers have been following the long-held tradition of the first rule of Fight Club, that we don't talk about Fight Club. Please, no dogs on stream. Luckily for you, I don't own a dog. I want to own a dog, but I do not. So there will be no dogs on stream today. Nobody put dogs in the chat. Westbone69. I was watching Vanishing Point earlier, and you were shaming me to subscribe, and I was like, Maddie, we're Twitter mutuals. Are we? Hold on. Your username's not ringing a bell. Unless you've got a different username from Twitch to Twitter. I don't know if that Showdog's comment is towards Westbone or towards me, but I will say, one of the first DCAU book clubs that we did, there was a dog in it who was a show dog. Oh God, what was it? What was its name? It kind of became a meme. Now I'm kind of curious. Hold on, I'm gonna hop over to my notes. Was it like Shelby the something collie or something like that? Smooth collie. The JL novels. And jump over from Sin Tzu. Oh, y'all don't need my email address. I've actually started trying to check it more, so I don't need y'all sending me spam. Go away, email address. Where is it? Where's the smooth collie? There it is. Shelby the Smooth Collie, yeah, that was its name. But yeah, I guess since I'm on the spreadsheet right now, this is basically what our spreadsheets look like for our note taking. We've got over here on this side. Usually, like, a lot of it's done. Comic issues and stuff. So series/episode/date, that would be comic series, or like if it's something like Teen Titans or Crypto the Superdog or whatever, the episode and then the date that it was released. This being a book, like, it doesn't really have much of that, so we just put like the chapter names in it. Character appearances, which I only do ones like I'm trying to only do them like as they show up the first time, right? Since it's all the same book, it's all going to be on the same page, on our eventual website. We're not going to break it down like a chapter by chapter. This character shows up, then this character shows up. Locations, same thing. Objects, like if there's a named object of importance, usually it goes in here. That'd be like, the Green Lantern ring, Wonder Woman's lasso of truth, Venom, stuff like that. James tries to get a little bit more info on stuff like that, so I'll put in stuff that's like, this 40 caliber HEK USP law enforcement model 12 shooter or whatever. Non-canon, this is, stuff that continuity errors and stuff. Continuity / in-show events, this is whenever it references something that happened on screen, and or if a book wants to reference a DCAU comic or something, like we'll put that in there as well, to show shared continuity. This is our timeline notes. Concrete, that's like if we have a specific origin for a character or an object or whatever, like say the bat signal first shows up in Cape and Cowl conspiracy, that goes in here. Granted, like if it's a piece of media that's like obviously in a different era of the DCAU timeline to where like that doesn't matter, then like I'm not gonna even worry about putting it. Like, why would I put Mr. Freeze is here, so this has to happen after Heart of Ice, when like, yeah, we're in the new Batman Adventures era at the very least, obviously. Pop culture, basic stuff. Weather, like if it says it's snowy out or it's a crisp fall evening or something. Other timeline notes, just anything that didn't fit the, everything else. Alternate looks, basically that's like if it mentions a different costume or something. We haven't had any in here, I don't believe, but we had like one in the Wings of War Justice League book where Bane looked completely different. James drew up a character model for it, which you can find on his Deviant Art, I believe. And miscellaneous is just other, interesting notes, stuff like that. So yeah, so we are on chapter 14, Batman / Bruce Wayne. Last chapter, him and Sin Tzu were fighting, and I believe it ended with Sin Tzu losing. Oh, hold on. I'm missing stuff. Don't you remember when Wildcat showed up out of nowhere and beat the ever-loving shit out of Edward Norton? That's true. Rose emoji, white passing lip sock, stoner rose emoji. Okay, gotcha. There's an uncomfortable amount of dog talk here. I'm talking about that dog movie you kept talking about on the Maddie Washburn YouTube. Arctic Dogs. That was, yeah, Danny's got that right. Arctic Dogs. I'm trying to rebrand the personal channel a little bit. I've taken most stuff and put it on private, and only kept like what I feel like are like comedic bit videos. I do want to kind of start trying to do stuff like that, in the same vein as like Caleb City, Gus Johnson, Ian Kung, kind of folks. But it's also, just a factor of motivation to do it. So, but I figured, when I get the motivation, I'll go ahead and have it kind of branded like that. So I have a different name between Twitch, YouTube, and Discord. I want them to match, but oh well. Yeah, I mean, I've got a similar problem. On Instagram, I have had at executive producer Dick Wolf for years. And now that like I'm doing the Watchtower database thing, like it makes sense to have stuff a bit more in line, but I don't want to give that up on the off chance that Dick Wolf, creator of Law and Order, ever wants to buy it from me. Continuity seems very important to the Watchtower database. I mean, it's it helps craft theories and everything, and You know, when Watchtower Database first brought me on, it was in like for timeline purposes, because like I was just personally trying to make a viewing / reading order of DCAU media. That way I could like get a deeper understanding for that world. But you know, the creators of that stuff don't really care quite as much, so it's not that big of a deal. Are this and the jail adventure streams getting research for Will It Canon videos? Yes, yeah. Will It Canon videos, timeline videos, you know, just general review videos if we decide to do that. I'm thinking about like doing like a book report segment. Maddie, did you like Watch Dogs the game? I have not played it. Turtleneck Bane is best Bane, true. Maddie is reading as a story, never mind on Watch Dogs. There's a channel called Stephen Fitzgerald, which matches your channel's comedy. I'll have to check it out. But, okay, let's get into the book. Because that's what y'all are here for, right? I mean, obviously you all want to hang out with me, but we advertise this as a book stream. It's a short chapter today. It's like 10 pages. So let's just get into it. 14, Batman / Bruce Wayne, 6 a.m. I taste blood in my mouth and smell the smoldering of my own flesh, but can once again retire for the night with all my teeth intact. As my heart rate decreases and my blood begins to flow less rapidly, I can feel the muscular aches and bruises begin to set in. Rest and a hot shower will cure these injuries. Oh, by the way, sometimes the stream likes to drop and pick back up. So if I disappear and it doesn't seem like it's the end of the stream, just sit there for a minute, refresh the page, and it'll you know, pop back in. I'm not sure why it does that. I think it's just that the computer that I use doesn't have much processing power to it. I found a better computer, I think, in a dumpster, but I've got to work on it to get it up and running. So that might take a while. So, you know, just deal with the refreshing when it comes up. I can feel the muscular aches and bruises begin to set in. Rest and a hot shower will cure these injuries. I wish it were as simple to cure the wounds done to the spirit and psyche. The only way to win a war is to avoid it. By definition, war entails conflict. In this case, the struggle over a city that was neither the attackers nor the defenders to win or lose. Gotham belongs to her citizens, and tonight her citizens were brutalized, bullied, manipulated, and marked as fodder. They were put at risk to satisfy one man's pride, and for this, too, some lost their lives. I find this completely unacceptable. Sin Tzu has been taken back into custody. Stonegate and Arkham are once again functional. All but 6 of the 1,489 convicts let out of Stonegate earlier this evening have been accounted for. Bane is imprisoned, and Scarecrow and Clayface will make their morning group therapy sessions at the asylum. Gotham is, for the moment, safe, and yet I feel neither victorious nor relieved. The senselessness of Sin Tzu's attack cloaks me in a cold fury that I have not had time to indulge until now. As I watch from this rooftop, Gotham begins to wake, moving numbly about her business in the first pale light of morning. Those who survive the night carry on. If they feel outraged or grief-stricken over the attack, they keep it mostly to themselves, confessing their distress only in the impulsive offerings of camaraderie they silently exchange with one another as they brave the streets. A man purchasing coffee from a cart on Vern Avenue meets the eyes of the vendor for a moment as he drops 50 cents into the tip jar. Alive, 2 women waiting for the bus by the Giella Gardens exchange brief smiles. We're still alive. The driver of a black Subaru waves a silver Jetta through the intersection ahead of him. Go ahead, buddy. At least we're both alive. Sin Tzu's ego, my ego, means nothing to these people, just as these people mean nothing to Sin Tzu. They have jobs to get to, stores to open, children to send off to school. Most of them will be entirely forgotten by history, while Sin Tzu's name lives on in infamy. They have no idea how they managed to survive the night, and they have no idea how important they really are. I don't fight just to protect them. I fight to earn the right to live among them. The 8,168,564 citizens of Gotham City are my neighbors, my inspiration, and my responsibility. My existence is spent battling for the safety of this city. I don't honestly know if it's possible to live in complete safety, complete peace, but I do know that I'll do everything within my power to bring us as close to that point as I can, even if I have to use violence to do it. I abhor violence. It is a language of tyrants and thugs, and one I have therefore become fluent in. But it is never my first choice when initiating discourse. The drag of the wind blowing in from the harbor behind me alters as it confronts new mass. Nightwing must have just appeared on the adjacent roof. The slightest scent of strawberry hair conditioner follows. That would be Miss Gordon. And so Robin will be in attendance as well. Nightwing would not have come to check on me without ascertaining Timm's safety first. A young man, a young woman, and a child, in the daylight and in normal clothing, they would look like an attractive, youthful family. And indeed, they each have every opportunity to live a rich, extraordinary life. Each of them has a razor-sharp intellect, and an embarrassment of health and a safe home. Why then are they standing in the icy wind on top of the von Grunwald Tower at 6 in the morning wearing masks and fighting to stay awake? Because they've been up all night with me, risking their lives repeatedly, loyal soldiers who owe no more allegiance to me than to anyone else in this city. They would tell you that they enjoy the work. For that matter, I would tell you that I prefer to work alone. Some truth in both statements, but also inaccuracies. On their part, they're emitting tales of physical agony, extreme psychological stress, and the psychic scarring sustained by so regularly seeing so much of humanity at its worst. On my part, I'm failing to acknowledge the degree to which they anchor me. And after fighting so close to Sin Tzu tonight, it is not a concept I intend to refute. Anchoring. I've heard the police talk about the difficulties they have dealing with civilian life after a long beat. Spend enough time with criminals and everyone begins to look suspicious. One comes to understand that most people act from predictable, even selfish motives. We may all choose to believe that we behave morally, but the very basis of our current social structure encourages competition, vanity, and circumstantial ethics. You can make the choice to be moral, but it's rarely the path of least resistance. Okay, so real quick, we did get a couple things to note here. Mostly locations. We got Vern Avenue, Giella Gardens. I'm trying to remember why the name Giella sounds so distinctly familiar to me. The Von Grunwald Tower, and then we got confirmation that Subaru and Jetta are both companies that exist. Why is Giella so familiar? That's a comics person, isn't it? Giella Comics. Joe Giella, American comic book artist best known as a DC Comics inker during the late 1950s and 1960s period, which historians and fans call the Silver Age. Okay, so we did Batman, Flash, Green Lantern. Okay, got it. That's why it's so familiar. I bet the other ones are probably, name cameos as well. But, Will Stream's canon? Probably not. Drunk Philly D voice. Just jump into it. Maddie runs the stream off of a potato. I run it off of a Microsoft Surface, but what's the difference when it comes to streaming? I actually I think I have an external hard drive that has more storage on it than this computer. So it's an interesting thing. I used to stream using 2 broken iPhones. 50 cents in the tip jar. We need to match inflation rates with average tip amounts in New York. Adjacent roof. More like a Jason roof, considering all Jason's done in BTEX. True. I was thinking the same thing, considering I have a brother named Jason. Adjacent. Yes. I hope you and your family can get him down from that roof that he always spies on Batman on. You got that bridge as well as the population of Gotham. Damn, he's literally calling out how the system encourages us to be amoral. Yeah, I was gonna say that as well. For a capitalist, he doesn't seem very capitalistic. Wait, hold on. What bridge did I have? Hold on. You said I have a bridge. Did I miss writing a bridge down? Was there a named bridge? Happy birthday, Urani. Did I miss writing a bridge down? I don't see a bridge. I've got Burn Avenue. I've got the Giella Gardens. Was it on the first page? No. I'm looking for capitalized words and I'm not seeing a bridge. I will put the the populace of Gotham in the miscellaneous just to be 1, 6, 8, 5, 6, 4. Population of Gotham. There we go. All right. Did I flip the page already? It's taking a second to load that back in. Yeah. Okay. Tight. All right. The kids on the roof behind me are 3 shining examples of the exception that proves the rule. They do not struggle to behave with integrity. It comes naturally to them. Each one of them has supplied me with intel, recon, even assistance in physical combat. Their true value to me, however, is as envoys of hope. They keep me connected to the physical world and to the living future. Who would Sin Tzu have been had he had similar connections? Sun's coming up, Nightwing says behind me. This does not require a response. You think they'll be able to keep Sin Tzu in Arkham this time? Robin asks. Technically, he never left Arkham, Miss Gordon, Batgirl adds. The edge of the sky is touched with red, and I feel a strong impulse to get indoors, back into the dark. Over time, I have learned to honor such impulses, but for now, I wait.
Sin Tzu will be reviewing his failures in this battle for quite some time to come,
I tell them, without turning to face them. I am battle-weary and bloodied and find the idea of eye contact with other human beings exhausting. Or maybe I just don't want them to see me injured. Dick, in particular, has a tendency to worry himself over my every scrape and mood change.
He's too egomaniacal not to try another offensive, but he'll need time to regroup.
For a start, I think he could use a new shrink, Nightwing quips. I am about to smile when I remembered the 23 Gothamites in critical condition as a result of tonight's turmoil.
Does anyone know the condition of Mrs. Langsley?
I ask. The cranial trauma? Says Nightwing. Alfred said she was still in ICU at Mercy.
And Mr. Mayfield's still in...
Oh, that's Robin. Robin doesn't have a Batman voice. And Mr. Mayfield's still in the burn ward, says Robin, anticipating my next question. But he was listed as stable as of 4 a.m. I'll run checks on the rest of them, Batgirl adds softly. 23 total? I nod and finally turn to face the 3 of them, ready to evaluate their condition. All are standing tall and breathing evenly, a small miracle and precisely what I expected. Robin looks a bit dazed from exhaustion, his 13-year-old body intent on resting and continuing its work of growth. He cannot suppress a slight yawn. Standing between Nightwing and me on this rooftop, he looks relaxed, open, and trusting. His defenses lowered, and yet tonight he fought alone for hours, without pause and without complaint. He exhibited initiative, bravery, and also a great degree of loyalty. The mission I gave him earlier concerning Alfred was the kind of task he might sometimes consider bogus or too far off the action. Tonight, he accepted it without argument and saw it through without incident. I would tell him how pleased I am with his performance if I could afford to allow him any slack. I cannot. His life depends on his continuing to strive to impress me. All right, so there's a few character mentions real quick that I don't think we've had yet. We've got Mrs. Langley, and we have Mr. Mayfield. And then we had a mention of Mercy. I guess that's Mercy Hospital, maybe? And you know what? Just for the sake of it, we've got that it's 6 a.m. because of the chapter name. Mr. Mayfield was listed as stable at 4 a.m. And once again, another mention of Tim Drake is 13. It's interesting that, like, they're just like, this is the biggest, most deadliest thing that ever happened to Gotham. It's like, oh yeah, 23 people are in critical condition. No big deal. Just flip that page. For a while, I didn't know what DC stood for, even though it was in front of me this entire time. DC stands for Depression Comes. I want to hear Bruce's "This does not require a response" inner monologue whenever that happens in the show. True. As for Alfred, I should have known where we'd find him. He can no more sit still on a night like this than I can. Service defines his life and his nature. In some strange way, his skills as an estate manager, medic, social critic, and perpetual rationalist come together to supply me with everything I need to persevere. I am grateful for his safety and acknowledge to myself once again that I absolutely could not do what I do without him. He is one of a very small handful of people on the planet who can continuously surprise me. I turn my attention to Nightwing, one of the others who now stands grinning in the warming dawn. His smile is so familiar that it almost teases a response from me. Though, when I look at him these days, I am filled with equal parts of pride and bewilderment. How can it be possible that this independent, self-governing young man standing nearly as tall as me is Dick, the pint-sized acrobat, the little monkey wrench in the gears? Alfred assures me that this reaction is a very normal fatherly response. But how many fathers look at their grown sons and think, how on earth did you stay by me all those years and yet survive? Thank God you're still here. Thank God you're still alive. That's got more to it now that we got a Jason Todd in canon. Thank God you're still here. Thank God you're still alive. The odds really were against it. Dick knows of my concern and dismisses it as an unexamined reaction to my parents' deaths. But while there was no reason to expect any harm to come to them, there have always been plenty of reasons to fear for Dick's safety. I fought with 3 of them tonight. Scarecrow proved as sociopathic as ever, completely unconcerned with the consequences of his actions. However, he also revealed a hint of suicidal ideation, and an effect I have not observed in him before. He was just playing with his own fear of mortality, or is his pathological disregard for mortality progressing to include himself? He seems to be reinventing himself as some sort of avatar of death. His targeting of Jim concerns me as well. I'll have to keep closer tabs on him. Clayface behaved more predictably. He must have been quite easy for Sin Tzu to manipulate. I still have scientists at Wayne Medical working to find a cure for hydromethotrexamide poisoning, the main ingredient in Renew You. But so far, we have had absolutely no luck. The best Hagen can do for himself now is try to accept his condition as much as possible. People survive with worse. Do people survive with worse? I'm trying to think of like what's worse than like being a clay monster, and like obviously like terminal like things that are terminal are worse than being a big old clay monster. But people don't survive with terminal conditions. So what are you talking about, Batman? And Bane. Sin Tzu was not wrong in his assessment of Bane's prowess. He continues to be a dangerous, formidable enemy. I can attribute many of tonight's larger bruises to him, and do not feel confident of a long internment for him at Stonegate. His intelligence and strength make him extremely difficult to keep behind bars. Like Sin Tzu himself, I know Bane will be back for a rematch. The steadily increasing sunlight catches in Miss Gordon's hair, creating a conflagration of beauty. I can only imagine how proud of her Jim must be. Damn, are they trying to set up the Bat-cest? If she insists on being out on these streets, I will have to do more work with her. She's a natural athlete and exceedingly sharp, but I cannot vouch for her safety unless I've trained her myself. I have no right to endanger her by accepting her onto my team. What the... Bro, alright. You let her into the Batcave like at least 3 years ago. Nor do I have the right to tell her she cannot defend the city she loves. I should really be getting home, she says, becoming self-conscious in the growing light of, or perhaps under my gaze. I note her proximity to Nightwing, who has angled his body in such a way to subtly impede her departure. For a moment, I wish I could free them, send them off into the sunlight to play. Alright, real quick, let's see. We had a mention of Wayne Medical. I'm just gonna put Batman is acting like Batgirl isn't a full-fledged part of the team in the non-canon, and mark that with page 281. I think those are the big ones on those pages. Detective Comics, you can literally look it up. Nah, it stands for Depression Comes. That's a nice moment. Bruce seeing Dick as a bright spot and truly viewing him as a son. Yeah, for sure. I do like that, but like just the wording of it all. It's like now that we've got Jason, it's just like oh no. Granted, like, you know, these aren't as connected as one would hope, so I'd be alright being a clay monster. Probably easier to live as a clay monster, no need for food or drink, no need to drive a car, etc. My nephew and nieces say hi. Hello, Small Macs. I'm good. That's what they are. You're Big Mac, they're Small Macs. Ugh. Alright, where were we? Alright, okay. But it's not within my power, for I never constrained them. For whatever reason, they choose to bind themselves to me unbidden. I'll lock you, Nightwing tells Batgirl, but she smiles and shakes her head. That'd be real hard to explain to Dad. Why? Who's your dad? Robin asks, and Nightwing and Batgirl laugh. So Robin doesn't know... Robin doesn't know that Batgirl is Barbara? Okay. I dive off the roof. The sounds of their laughter following me down 8 stories. By the time I discharge the grapnel line, the cacophony of city traffic is rising up to meet me. And then all I can hear is the wind. Earlier this evening, I laid 2 roses on the ground where my mother and father were murdered over 25 years ago. I also left fresh flowers at their grave. In my early teens, I vowed to them that I would avenge their deaths. It turned out to be a more difficult promise to keep than I imagined. My parents were casualties of random urban violence, a robbery gone awry. How was that avenged? It's not as simple as catching the man who shot them, who was merely a symptom of an epidemic of poverty and crime. As far as he was concerned, they could have been any couple in the whole city. As far as they were concerned, he could have been any criminal. The crime was impersonal and arbitrary, and its effect on me was so deeply personal and searing that it is almost impossible to conceive of suitable retaliation. It wouldn't be enough to incarcerate every criminal in the city. Until every couple venturing out in the evening to stroll the streets of Gotham can do so with a reasonable assumption of safety, my parents' death means nothing. Damn, so Bruce is out here arguing for big systemic change. I am a cannibal. Don't think I'm weird. I just figured out What? 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 He should know. Doesn't he find out in Sins of the Father, or is she just there as Batgirl? Yeah, I don't remember, but like I'm pretty sure he's been around her out of costume. Maybe he just didn't make the Barbara Gordon to Jim Gordon connection, but that doesn't seem right. Hi, Maddie. Hello, Crusading Fish. Ooh, excuse me. I have a lot of work to do. My thoughts turn to Sin Tzu as I move northwest across the city rooftops. 2 contrasting images of him fight for dominance as I try to appraise this new enemy. Both are more emotional evaluations than I would like. The first is the image of Sin Tzu the warlord. I can directly connect him to the death of 7,428 people over the course of his public career. And that does not include murders he may have been involved with before his first official strike in China. The energy he wields is powerful and dangerous, as is his mind, devoid as it is of empathy and social aspiration. War is a compulsion for him, not a means to an end. He's the most treacherous kind of sociopath, disconnected from morality and even his own humanity, incapable of seeing others as anything but military fodder. This is the Sin Tzu whose face first appeared in my communicator monitor, bold, bloody, ruthless, and megalomaniacal, a figure nearly impossible not to hate. The second competing image is of Sin Tzu, the orphan. He doesn't have a different name for himself in this state, as I do, and the mask he wears is permanent, but I understand the division in his nature all too well. Like me, he turned to discipline to forge an identity for himself that would allow him to move through a world that had seemed to abandon him. Like me, he gave up much of what it means to be fully human in order to be something more effective and less vulnerable than that. Like me, once upon his chosen path, he never hesitated, never looked back. Like me, his mission began to consume him, became much farther reaching than he had initially dreamed. So real quick, couple of notes. Tim doesn't know who Batgirl's dad is. Big old question marks there. The Wayne murders were over 25 years ago. It's weird that like, cause he drops the roses like on his parents' grave, like on the anniversary. And he did that at the start of the book. So it's like he should know exactly how many years it's been. So, like, why doesn't he? Did I flip the page? I did not. Oh. Flip the page. Gotta love when it takes its time. Let's see. Aren't we all cannibals in our hearts? It did bother me how Tim is Robin in Holiday Nights, but then becomes Robin an episode later in Sins of the Father. Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, produced and aired out of order. They had a script for Holiday Nights because they had already written the comic, so Batman hesitated in Phantasm. I thought it was Dick, not Tim. Wasn't it Dick offering to... Yeah, it was Dick offering to walk her back, and then she said, I don't know how I would explain this to Dad, and then Tim was just like, wait, who is your dad? Sin Tzu is Hush confirmed. Yes. Does this take place before or after what? Before or after what? The last thing you mentioned is Phantasm. And Phantasm takes place in BTAS, and we have Tim as Robin here. So if you're talking about Phantasm, yes, it's after. Maybe the writers wanted to give a vague estimate of the Wayne's death so they don't really ruin the timeline. You would think that, and yet there's plenty of things in here that's just like, what? But yeah, okay. These are our last couple pages. We got like a paragraph on the one after it. But unlike me, the beings that finally did come into his life were unsympathetic, lifeless things, incapable of forming the bonds of family. Unlike me, the things he fought for, the art of war, the approval of the dead, the mastery of destruction, were transient and insubstantial. And unlike me, the things he put his trust in could not be looked in the eye. The powers that he drew from depended on more than his own strength and will. This is the Sin Tzu I saw in the final moments of our fight. Broken, terrified, lost, and unendurably alone. A figure nearly impossible not to pity. I understand him well enough to be sure that he will rise again, and that when he does, his wrath will be terrible. I will be waiting for him, and this he knows too. Jim is clutching a styrofoam cup of Colombian coffee and exiting Arkham when I arrive. He has clearly not been home to change his clothes or shave, so it seems like Nightwing could have walked Barbara home. His dedication to the safety of this city unquestionably equals my own. I have heard the hypothesis that my presence in Gotham attracts as many criminals as it deters. This was certainly true in the case of Sin Tzu, who targeted this city specifically as a means of engaging me. I cannot comment on this phenomenon, except to say that it is certainly not true of Jim. Everything he does in this city improves it. He is completely effective and irreproachable, whether acting as a citizen, policeman, or father. My respect for him is boundless. I like how Batman like has been acknowledging like the systemic failures of Gotham maybe America, but Gotham at the very least in this chapter. And like throughout our reading of this, I've been pointing out that like there are some things that like make me a little uncomfortable with the framing of this book, like how it kind of assumes that everyone in Stonegate like would be rioting upon release, and
good job, Robin.
Hey, thanks for following XMC Lovin' 29. But like how like it kind of like takes it for granted that like everyone in Stonegate is a violent criminal, and there's nobody locked up in there on like non-violent offenses who would just be like, okay, well, I'm trying to get the fuck out of here. And so like it's weird, like seeing Batman be like, yeah, there's definitely a bunch of systemic issues and like, but also like in the same, like just with the framing of current times that we're in, Batman being like, good police good, when like there's some obvious biases going on in the book itself. I mean, I guess 20 years ago, maybe it wasn't as noticeable, and obviously, like Batman's got to have a relationship with the police because of just the way that the character is. But it does feel like a cognitive dissonance of sorts. Not to say that Jim Gordon is necessarily a bad guy. We don't really ever see him doing bad. But if we did see him doing bad, would they actually put it in a it's I'm going on a tangent. I deliberately let my shadow pass over him as I head up to the roof, and in short order, he dismisses himself from the 4 officers and 2 security guards in attendance and joins me above the crowd and away from prying eyes. I will say that Jim Gordon in the Harley Quinn show, I absolutely would not be comfortable with being a cop. I just finished watching that yesterday. They're mopping up now, he informs me, taking a sip from his coffee. His slight wince of displeasure tells me it's cold.
Sin Tzu was not mistaken about the importance of leadership. When the commander is defeated, the army surrenders soon after.
I think that's Batman. It doesn't say who says that. I think about Sin Tzu, once again, isolated within a cell in the asylum beneath our feet. It is perhaps disingenuous to dismiss the man as a mere megalomaniac. Like Scarecrow, Sin Tzu is a sociopath, unable to appreciate the difference between wrong and right. But he is also a scientist of sorts, obsessed with the equation of war. There are some minds I would rather not understand, but all too often the only way to defeat an enemy is to be more aware of his motives and methods than he is himself. The rage and hunger of a genocide survivor boiled just under Sin Tzu's detached exterior. He's obsessed with war because war has been a consistent and merciless nemesis for him, costing him everything: his family, his future, and finally his humanity. Interesting that the key to his undoing tonight should prove to be his inability to fathom compassion. Did he make a promise to his absent parents to punish them for their perceived abandonment, or was he determined to survive at all costs just to spite them? At its most basic level, my self-appointed mission to eradicate crime in this city is a defense against feeling personally cornered and robbed by it. By the same token, Sin Tzu's maniacal warmongering is an expression of his unconscious desire to tame and rule those forces which threaten him. My fear drives me to protect, and so I am regarded as a hero. Sin Tzu's fear drives him to attack, and so he is deemed a criminal. He protect, he attack, but most of all, Sin Tzu gonna come back. I should have told you that Sin Tzu had been transferred to Arkham, Jim says, tightly grinding his back teeth as he eyes his own shoes. But I was sworn to secrecy. I understand, I answer. We all have to honor our vows, to the living and to the dead. And that is the end of Batman: Rise of Sin Tzu. Let me catch up on the chat real quick. Maybe the writers, yeah, okay. Do you like PlayStation or Xbox? I've been more of a PlayStation person. I prefer Nintendo stuff mostly, but PlayStation for the stuff that doesn't come on the Nintendo. Phantasm appears in the B-Test era, and her next appearance is just a cameo in Justice League Unlimited, unless you count Batman Adventures Volume 2, and then what you call it, the Batman and Robin Adventures Annual, which I guess is still B-Test era though. Azrael unmasks to be Andrea. Jim Gordon and Harley Quinn is a complete nut job. Yeah, absolutely. That dude is not really dealing with a stable life. Fit Harley Quinn into the DCAU. You can't. You can't. I do want to timeline it though. It's a pretty fascinating show. Jim's whole deal that he's the one good cop who gradually reforms and rebuilds the police. If the Nolan films weren't so painfully center-right in their politics, then maybe we could have gotten a good showing of that on screen. I'll have to rewatch those. I remember not being a huge fan of the Nolan films. I felt like they were too much of a cop drama than they were Batman films. So I'll have to give it a rewatch. Well, there's no place for Harley Quinn to fit in, especially because what happens in Batman Beyond Return of fucking Joker flashback. Jim Gordon is voiced by Christopher Maloney in Harley Quinn, and as a massive Law & Order SVU fan, I find that hilarious. Yeah, I just put that together last night. I was curious. The voice cast for that show, like, I would never have been able to pick out so many of the people. But, like, after looking it up, I was just like, oh, obviously. But yeah, I love Christopher Maloney. Is it SVU? If you haven't watched Happy yet, that's a really good one that he's been doing. His character in Wet Hot American Summer was a lot of fun. And he even showed up in Scrubs once, so that was kind of fun, even though, rewatching Scrubs, it was not very fun of a show. It was more cringy than anything. In Harley Quinn's timeline, are the Justice League meant to be 50 years old despite looking 20? I'm guessing you saw the post I made on Twitter. So they've been around for like 30 years, since at least the late 80s, according to the Queen of Fables. And in my mind, I feel like that was a really sly joke that the show producers put in to say that, like, the Justice League formed as babies, or like very young children. And I'm hoping we see that, like, happen in a flashback. But it's possible they could be in their 50s. I don't know. Super moisturizer. Harley Quinn's Jim took a bit of getting used to, but I absolutely fell in love with this crazy ass in season 2. Oh, for sure. The alcoholism montage was a lot of fun. Not talking about timelining Harley Quinn into the DCAU, just timelining itself. Yes, I want. Jim Gordon and Harley Quinn is high. Changed my mind. He's strong. Maloney is great in Man of Steel as well. Oh yeah, I forgot he's in there. It's so weird that, like, I only knew him from SVU, and then, like, he's just been showing up in things that I've been watching lately. Let's see. Let's do the about the authors. Devin Khalil Grayson is the award-winning creator of Batman Gotham Knights and current writer of Nightwing for DC Comics. She lives in Oakland, California, and says the commute to Gotham City is a breeze. Screenwriter, game designer, and novelist Flint Dill's work includes the Agent 13 series with David Marconi, the Sandguard interactive game book series with E. Gary Gygax, and the Knight of Sin Tzu video game script. Hold on, whoa, so it was originally called Knight of Sin Tzu instead of Rise of Sin Tzu, and they didn't edit that out in the about the author? That's interesting, at least. Flint lives in Los Angeles, California with his wife Terry and 2 children, Zane and Gwyneth, but just the hyphen. Let's see, acknowledgements. Devin Khalil Grayson would like to thank the following: Scott Peterson for helping me out of a jam with such humor and grace, and for introducing me to Batman in the first place. Hey, Scott Peterson is a cool dude. We've interviewed him. I wasn't on that interview, but also interesting that, like, this person did not know about Batman and was introduced to them by Scott, and then went on to write Batman and this book, which I guess is still writing Batman, but I meant, like, writing Batman comics and this book. Michael Wright for leaving the porch light on in Bloodhaven for me. Mark Wade for being available online at 2 in the morning for grammar and punctuation lessons. Denny O'Neill for the inspiration, rest in peace, my man, for the inspiration in life as well as writing. Matt Brady and Dwight Williams for the wonderfully informative Daily Planet Guide to Gotham City, from which several of the statistics in this book were taken. Interesting. What is this Daily Planet Guide to Gotham City? Was this like... Okay, so it's a paperback book. Huh. It's weird that like we've been finding out recently that like there are a decent handful of DCAU products that like take info from not DCAU sources. So like there's this with that Daily Planet Guide to Gotham City that we just mentioned. Apparently a lot of the bios on like the Batman Superman DCAU website were taken from Who's Who in the DC Universe book. And then I want to say like some of the stuff in the Capstone books are taken from like regular ass DC encyclopedias. So that's interesting. Like, I wish we just had like a DCAU encyclopedia that was just like, these are the things. That way these people could have, followed those instead. Could you imagine if DCAU Gordon cheated on his wife like Comic Gordon in Batman Year One animated movie? Does he even have a wife in the DCAU? The editor Dana Curtin for the support, help, and cheerleading all the creators of Batman the Animated Series for this wonderful continuity we've had so much fun playing in. My co-writer Flint Dill for writing such a cool video game that WB wanted to make it into a novel, and for his great work on the Sin Tzu chapters. Dad, Linda, Mom, and Frank for understanding why they couldn't see me for over a month. And along those same lines, Arnold Fiener, David Segale, turn to page. Kay Jarrett and Dave Cannell for letting me off the hook, game running wise, 6 weeks in a row. Flint says thanks to Buzz Dixon for the literally kick-ass help on the in-game fight voiceovers, and for reading over the game script to catch any embarrassing errors. Thanks to Frank Miller, who took time to talk to the game's producer, Benoit, designer Mario, and me about Batman over a few beers and lunch, as well as Jim Lee, who brought Sin Tzu to life. Oh yeah, and Paul Dini, who spent countless hours talking to me about Batman over the years, and John Warden, who taught me more than I'll ever know about strategy.
You've read the book. Now play the video game. Batman Rise of Sin Tzu. Available on all next generation consoles. October 2003. Rated T for violence.
Is that... Oh, we got... There's a read more. Yeah, that is the end of it. Okay, so I've got to make this quick because that's just the music. That's what we're listening to, this music guy. But yeah, I got to make this quick because in 30 minutes I'm supposed to be hopping on with the dudes from Bruh Meets World to do a podcast episode with them. Oh shoot, did it damn, it did the thing, didn't it? It waited till like the very end to do the thing. Are y'all still here? Are we still here? Are there people still here? Put in the chat if you're here. It says I have 5 viewers left out of like the 12 that were here. Drop a hello in the chat or something. Okay, tight. Okay, so things are back up. Yeah, so I've gotta hop on to that's a chat replay. I don't know if interesting. That might be part of the. But yeah, okay. So I gotta do this kind of quickly because I've got to hop on with the folks of the Bruh Meets World podcast to record an episode of that with them in about 30 minutes. So I've got 4 books here. I'm gonna put a poll up on Twitter, but I figured I would give you guys the rundown first of which ones we might possibly be doing next week. So we've got Batman: Shadows of the Past, which, if I remember correctly, ties together the events of Robin's Reckoning and Appointment in Crime Alley as one story. It's a pretty thin book. Seems like it would be an interesting read, but not necessarily much of anything new. We've got Mask of the Phantasm, the animated movie novelization. There are actually 2 different novelizations. And I've got one of them saved as a PDF in our drive, and then I've got this one. Right? I think these are 2 different. Right? The one that I have saved in our drive was written by Geary Gravel, I believe. And who is the author on this one? I know at the very least it's a different cover. Where does it? It doesn't say the writer anywhere. Executive producer based on story by Alan Burnett, screenplay, sequence directors, music by a novelization by Andrew Helfer. Yeah, so this is a different version than the one that I have saved on our cloud drive. So either of those, like, I would have to scan in like I'm doing, like I did the Sin Tzu. Then I have Justice League Red Justice. It's in the same series as the what you call it that I've already done, Golden Opportunity and Wings of War. It says the Justice League has been called to the Ural Mountains in Russia to shut down a decaying nuclear reactor. But in doing so, they also cut off the power to a long-forgotten cryogenic lab hidden deep underground. They're a group of genetically engineered metahumans. Are accidentally revived, codenamed Red Dawn. They are endowed with powers that rival those of the Justice League, threatening its very existence. Has the League finally met its match? So that's that book. You always gotta love a Red Scare throwback. And then the one that I'm hoping wins, Mad Love novelization by Paul Dini and Pat Cadigan. It came out in 2018. Apparently Baby Doll is in it for a little while. It takes portions of Mad Love, but gets a lot deeper into detail on things. So I think it's going to be like a really fun read. Those are our 4 options. And it's gonna go on a Twitter poll. I'll probably put that up as soon as I get off of here. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I gotta go ahead and go. That way I can prep for this podcast recording. I gotta run to the restroom, gotta get a quick snack and all that kind of stuff. It's been fun hanging out with you guys for Rise of Sin Tzu. really excited for honestly any of the books that we're about to hop into. So y'all take care, and I will see you next week. Mwah. Love ya. Bye.